Okay, today we're going to be seeing the video for Orange Unit, the B section, and we're looking at the oil pastel techniques. So you're going to need to look at the handout and get a piece of paper from the Paper Center to complete this project. You're going to need oil pastels for this. All right, so I have set up the grid on my extra piece of paper, and I'm going to be showing you technique by technique how this goes. So can we get on here? Okay. The first one is heavy pressure blending. And blending implies that there's two things, or you're going to be taking the original and blending it from one thing into the other. So I'm going to put a lot of pressure on this to the point where you're going to start seeing a lot of the pieces fly off. And if you're blending one into the next, you're going to go on top of the other one. So I blended I covered real hard, and then in the middle I'm going to overlap the two so that when I blend this together and it gets warm with the temperature of my finger, it will warm it up so that we can get a nice gradient of color. Okay, a lot of kids will just color with the oil pastel, sort of like it's crayons, but this is the beauty that you can do in making it really smooth, and that's why we really like oil pastels. Light pressures, are we on light pressure now? Okay. Light pressure is just that. You're using light pressure, almost whispering on it, and you're not just throwing in like random lines. You're really putting them close to each other, but you're not putting on a lot of pressure. A good way to do this is to not keep your pastel straight up, but to keep it sideways, so it really whispers on there. And if I was going and blending one on top of the other, that's how you would do that. It's harder, it's more difficult to blend these two guys together. But you can do it. Okay, you see, the more I warm it up with my finger, the more it's gonna go. Okay, so scumbling. Are we on scumbling? Okay, so scumbling is sort of cool. It's almost like sort of dancing around the paper, and you see how I'm twisting and turning the pencil, and it just sort of goes around. Yeah, it's more than a scribble. It's more like you're just sort of dancing and turning and going back on top of it. This is a really great texture to get, and you can also put down one layer and blend it out and then scumble on top of it. And that's a neat way to get some texture in something. Okay? And you can definitely put more than one color together. So if you wanted to scumble two things together, this is sort of a fun one to do. Okay? Color mixing. You use the heavy pressure blending. And it's almost like you're making paint. What happens if I put purple and orange together? What happens if I make purple and mix yellow? What do you think?
A little bit like I was close.
Yeah, it's gonna make like a yuck color. Yeah. Okay, so you can do all kinds of stuff with this, and it's almost like you're making paint, making your own paint. Okay. Graffito. This is my favorite. I'm gonna put down a light color first.
Oh, I know.
Some of you guys have done this before, I bet you. Put down a light color, and you put a dark color on top of it.
Could you do black over it too?
Yeah.
Like do different colors and then do black over it?
Yeah, let's do the black. All right.
What is it for? It's light.
And then you take something that has a sharp edge. I really like using the caps of pens. F-F-I-T-O. Okay? So you just carve through it and you can make patterns into it, and it's pretty cool. I like putting graffito.
Those things where you take the toothpick and like...
Yeah, exactly. All right, stippling. Does anybody remember from last year what stippling is? Dots, yeah. So I can have light. I can make it go closer to itself to make a darker value. And I can make it a whole bunch. The more and the harder it goes together, the darker it appears, right? You can definitely also use different colors with it too. I would love to put red with this. So you can definitely mix your colors too. That's neat. And then the fun one.
Oh, I like that one. I did that with my other one.
Okay, so we have this.
I have mine.
We have this. Okay, so I have a Q-tip and I have a teeny tiny cup of baby oil, and it's freshly squeezed from real babies. And this is, because it's oil pastel, it doesn't break down with water, right? But what will break it down is oil. And it's gonna literally turn it into paint. Do you see how that is? The problem with this though is that it will never dry and you will always have an oil halo in the background. So if you like that, great. If you don't like it, there's definitely other solutions. So I showed you all of these for a reason. When you do your final project, let's say you choose the oil media for your final project, I want to see some of these techniques in your final project. So maybe you incorporate scumbling, or you incorporate some areas that are light pressure. Maybe you try to incorporate 3 or 4 of these in your project. It's going to make it look a lot more interesting. It's going to show off that you understand your skills, and it's going to be a lot more sophisticated than somebody that just colors with a oil pastel like you're coloring a coloring book. Okay, so that's oil pastel techniques. So please go on and make a response in the Google Classroom Orange Belt and answer the question that is posted.